Welcome back, everyone, to our Groundskeeper chat series. Today we're going to be talking putting your baseball field to bed. And we are joined by Brent, and I'm going to give him the opportunity to introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Brent Packer. I've got 20 years of experience in collegiate athletics, and I'm here to try to help you guys out.
Perfect. And you know, one thing that I always run into whenever I think I'm on top of my game with a topic is the groundskeeper will say, well, yeah, we put it into practice in this season, but the work actually starts way before. And I think especially with putting your field to bed in the fall, it's really all preparation for how your field's going to perform come springtime. And especially in the region of Ohio, you want it to be ready to go even if snow is still falling and rain is a factor. So, you know, give us kind of an outlay of when your guys' season starts and when the prep really begins here in fall for when you guys are going to start putting the field to bed.
So we just finished up our last practice yesterday. It'll be October 19th. So now is when we'll start laser grading the field, redoing our edges, and then we'll start working on the grass areas too. Normally we would resod at this time, but we're going to do a major sodding project around December 1st.
Okay.
So we're going to wait for grass then to redo the sod areas.
Perfect. And like come springtime, how frequently are you guys battling, you know, snow, rain, in the sense that you really want to have things dialed in, ready to go that first day?
So with the Ohio winters being as unpredictable as they are, you really want the field to get put to bed the way that you want it to come out. You can't expect to have the opportunity to do any kind of work. Our season starts practice usually like mid-January, and then our first home game is usually the second week of March. We try to mitigate some of the problems with a skin tarp that we leave on all winter long. It usually helps a little bit with the freeze and thaw, and then it keeps most of the major snow off of it and rain off of it, but still allows the grass to be exposed and get the sunlight that it needs. Definitely.
And to a blind eye like myself, you know, the field looked to be in pretty good condition, but could you point out to us, like, what areas of the field saw a lot of wear this season that you're going to want to address before putting the field to bed?
Sure. Softball is a little bit different than baseball. We only have 3 players that play on the grass, and the infield doesn't take near the wear from pitchers, catchers, that kind of stuff. Our primary wear areas from a grass standpoint is our 3 position players in the outfield. We try to keep up on those where we'll overseed ahead of time. While the wear is happening, we'll let them cleat that seed in. Usually there's enough time to recover, especially this year, we have a little bit longer growing season. So I don't see us in having to resod any of our position areas. Sometimes we have an early winter, we will have to do, especially center field. Seems like it takes the most wear of all of them. The edges of the grass, they get kind of worn. Like I said, we'll resod a lot of those.
Okay.
So that way they're ready to go first week of practice. You know, we've been out here on the clay with that skin tarp as early as that second week of January. It's just completely weather dependent. It's Ohio. You never know what you're going to get.
I can't imagine being told that I have to be out here in January to start practicing. I'd probably fake an injury, but that shines more lights on me than anything else. Well, I see that the field is pretty level at this point, but do you guys like address your mounds or anything before you put the tarp over, or do you kind of go in and build those out at the start of the season?
Yeah, we like to get it laser graded after fall camp. You can't see them, you know, as deep right now, but with third base area and the first base area, just the style of the game. In softball, they're always running forwards to charge bunts and that kind of stuff. So you do see a lot of wear in those, and they get kind of depressed. Those are the primary areas. The pitcher's mound, catcher's area. Catcher's area actually ends up a little bit higher because we add clay to it every day. So even when you're dragging it around, it gets a little high. So that's one of our areas that we need to address before we put it to bed.
And so you did already mention a little bit about the grow covers or a tarp that you guys would put down. About what timeline do you put that down before?
Yeah, so that's kind of weather dependent. We usually will put it down before we'll leave for winter break. Now, if it's an early winter and we're looking at all kind of snow, then we'll put it out. What we use as a skin cover is our old softball tarp.
Okay.
We just cut around the edge of the grass and then leave it out there all winter.
Perfect.
If it is a big winter storm and say we might want to try to get them out there for practice, if the weather's going to break, we'll actually come out here and shovel the snow off the tarp too, just to keep all that moisture off of there. Any excess stuff that we can remove helps us out a ton in the long run.
And do you do any grow covers on the grass, or you guys let that kind of take its own course?
We don't use grow covers out here. We do use them on some of our other fields that are more of a rectangle base. It's hard to get your grow covers out in a uniform manner on something that's based on an arc like this.
Definitely. So for our audience that may be watching and budget's a factor or labor is a factor, if they've got, time or money to do only one thing or two things, what would you say is the biggest priority they need to focus on in order to kind of give them a leg up in some sense come springtime?
I think the biggest thing is having your grade right going into winter. Otherwise, you're going to have bird baths, and those are going to be your hardest areas to get ready the next spring. If you can get as much of that water to shed off to the sides as you can, it's really, really going to help you out. Like I said, we do have a tarp that helps us out greatly, but if you can get all your water to go where it needs to make your clay playable sooner rather than later, you're way better off.
Definitely. Do you guys do any fertilization practices at this time of the year, or is that something you focus on in the springtime?
No, we probably have one more application of fertilizer. It'll be a lighter application though, because we're fertilizing all year long with a 50% slow release product. So we're still getting constant feeding off of those products. And then next week we'll probably start with an aerification, and then we also do like to use a vertiquake or an earthquake machine, something to get down 8 or 9 inches and loosen up the soil. Not only does it help with drainage all winter long, but when you go through that freeze and thaw, it seems like it allows those roots to creep down a lot easier in the spring.
Definitely. And everything looks pretty shaped up facility wise here. What did you guys really have to make sure was put away and ready to go into the winter season on that end?
So we're going through some projects this winter. We are going to get our outfield padding replaced. You can see the red's kind of faded. So that's one thing we're going to have to watch is keeping the grass from getting worn from all that activity around the outfield wall. We only have to do that every 4 or 5 years. So it's something a little bit different we're going to be working around. But that's about it.
And the baseball field is synthetic, correct?
The baseball field is synthetic. So we're going to do the same thing out there, outfield wall, and then with the synthetics, you have to replace the slide pits, the home plate areas, all that kind of stuff. So usually it's just first base and our home plate areas we have to replace. This year we're going to do second, third, first, and the home plate areas. It's just that field's about 10 years old now, and those areas are getting kind of worn down just from constant play on them all the time. Same thing over there, though, with your clay. We're going to rebuild mounds, bullpens, and game mounds next week also, maybe the week after. But it's the same idea. You never know when you're going to get to work on your clay in the spring, so you really need to have it dialed in when you're going into winter.
Definitely. So you touched on a lot of the things that you're going to be doing in this fall end of the season era, but when it does come springtime, what does that dialogue look like between you and the coaches or you and the staff when the field may have an extra water on it or it may not be playable? How do you kind of navigate those conversations?
It's super important to build relationships ahead of time with your coaches, develop a level of trust that they know you're not just saying something that they don't believe. So it's really important. Like we work with them every day on covering the home bullpen when they get done, or making sure that all their equipment's off the field so we can come out here and do what we need to do, getting an accurate practice schedule from them. So in the spring, we're all looking at the weather. Everybody wants to be outside as soon as they can. So when a day pops up where it looks like it's going to be 40, 50 degrees and they want to get outside, we'll start talking to them a few days ahead of time. What are we going to do? Are we doing hitting? Are we doing infield? You know, what all can we at least get you out here? Maybe get like the home plate area where at least the girls can hit outside and maybe field some balls in the outfield where they're doing it under natural light instead of in our indoor building. So it's super important to know where their head's at, what they're thinking, what they want to get done that day, and that way we're not wasting our time maybe concentrating on the whole infield when they're just going to do maybe hitting that day or pitching that day, and we can focus more time on those areas, be a lot more efficient on our end.
Perfect. Well, I think you answered all my questions. Is there anything else that I missed?
I don't think so.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for doing this, and we appreciate the time, and stay tuned for more baseball content as we start to prep for the spring season.